The forest was unnervingly silent, the kind of quiet that made every snapped twig feel like a gunshot. A sudden streak of blue light tore across the canopy, sizzling through the trees and leaving a faint hum in the air. From the smoke and sparks emerged a figure, a tall, and possibly attractive humanoid, glowing faintly like molten sapphire. His muscles glimmered beneath iridescent skin, and his hair, silver with faint streaks of starlight, floated slightly as if in zero gravity. He stumbled through the underbrush, each step careful, but every movement betrayed panic. Something in the air made him twitch. He was supposed to be hiding, not performing, yet he couldn't help the dramatics. He didn't see the trap until it was too late. A reinforced net, cleverly disguised among the ferns, shot up and ensnared him mid-stride. His arms flailed wildly, and his legs kicked as he tried to free himself, the net clinging to his glowing form. "No! No! Don't eat me! Not like that!" he screamed, the words echoing off the trees in a strange mixture of terror and outrage. His voice, deep and melodious, carried just enough panic charm to make it almost comical. A soft crunch of leaves heralded the arrival of the human. She appeared from the shadows, flashlight in hand, tools dangling from a belt around her waist. Her expression was calm but alert, like she was evaluating a trapped animal rather than a glowing, groaning alien male flailing in panic. The light swept over him, and his entire body stiffened, pupils dilating in alarm. On his planet, being tied up was a highly charged, pre-mating ritual. A subtle touch, a whispered word, even the act of restraint itself, these were signals of affection, desire, and mutual understanding. And here he was, ensnared by an unknown species, certain she had every intention of consuming him, romantically or literally. Every cautious step she took toward him made him more certain of his impending doom. "Please," he gasped, his voice trembling. I am not food. Not like that." He wriggled, net creaking, twisting in ways that would have been impressive if he weren't so utterly terrified. The human crouched a few feet away, scanning the net with a mixture of curiosity and mild irritation. "It's okay, calm down. I'm not going to hurt you," she said softly. Her words, innocent and practical, hit him like a jolt of electricity. On his world, those tones were used to seduce prey, lure them into a state of willing vulnerability before the ritual began. He shivered audibly, eyes wide and shining. "Not hurt me?" he stammered. "Then, why are you standing there, like that, waiting?" His voice pitched higher with every word, a mixture of incredulity and something dangerously close to excitement. She tilted her head, confused. I just want to see if you're okay. Are you injured?" Her hand moved slightly toward the net. His chest heaved, and a low, rumbling purr slipped out before he could stop it. That sound, soft, vibrating, almost musical, made her blink. She had expected growls or hisses, maybe panic, but not that. He interpreted the motion as a predator's approach, one step closer to devouring him with careful, calculated intent. He struggled harder, twisting and jerking in the net. I will faint if you come closer. No! Don't touch me. Don't prep me like that. His limbs flailed so wildly he nearly flipped the entire trap. She sighed, crouching lower, keeping her hands visible. I just want to help you out of the net. That's all. She carefully began inspecting the rope. He froze mid-struggle, chest heaving, staring at her with wide, luminous eyes. Help? Help? On my planet, touching me while I am restrained is an intimate act. You are testing me, seducing me. He squeaked and then let out a small yelp as the net shifted. She didn't flinch, simply muttering under her breath about needing better traps for actual animals. She started to pull at the knots near his wrists. He screamed again, dramatic as ever, and the moment her hands came near him, he flopped onto his side in an exaggerated faint. Oh no, you fainted? She murmured, more to herself than him, and then blinked. He was glowing, purring, and lying stiffly like a rug over the forest floor. Great, now I have to untangle him while he's unconscious. She rolled her eyes, starting to carefully loosen the net. He twitched, muttering something about preparation for consumption and ceremonial rites, which she ignored entirely. The net began to give way, and his limbs flopped freely. One hand brushed against a vine, causing him to startle and make a sound somewhere between a squeak and a growl. "You really need to calm down," she said with a dry chuckle, finally freeing him completely from the net. His body sagged, shimmering faintly in relief, and he blinked up at her with what could almost be mistaken for longing, if you ignored the panic and wild flailing. I was nearly devoured, prepared, undressed. He gasped, writhing slightly as she gently lifted him to a sitting position. Every gesture she made, touching the net, brushing his glowing skin aside, even blinking, was misinterpreted as flotation, an advanced mating dance, and he melted slightly under the confusion, emitting soft, melodic sounds that made her pause. "Do humans always do this before consuming their prey?" he asked breathlessly, voice trembling, every syllable drawn out in terror and something that vaguely resembled desire. "Nope," she said with a snort, tugging the last strand of rope free. "Not even close." He froze mid-flail, eyes wide and shimmering. She had said he would survive, but her casual tone and steady movements left him more convinced than ever that something inappropriate, was about to happen. He panted, tailing off in a soft, involuntary purr, glaring at her and pleading silently. "Please, not like that, not ever." She finally stepped back, hands raised in a gesture of non-threat, studying him. His chest heaved, every muscle tensed, eyes shimmering with panic, curiosity, and a confusion that was oddly alluring. The forest around them was quiet again, but the tension between them crackled like the aftermath of a lightning strike. He didn't realize it yet, but the first stage of panic, misunderstanding, and accidental attraction was complete. And she had no idea just how deep, hilarious, and dangerously flustered this runaway alien prince would become under her calm, practical gaze. He lay on the forest floor for a moment longer, catching his breath, still trembling from the trauma of being ensnared. Every fiber of his alien body was on high alert, eyes darting to every rustling leaf, every flicker of shadow. She crouched in front of him, hands on her knees, examining his glowing form like she was deciding whether he belonged in a wildlife guidebook. "I need to make sure you're not broken," she said, voice calm but firm. She reached toward him carefully, her fingers brushing lightly against his wrist to check for injuries. The instant she touched him, his entire body stiffened, muscles tensing, and a soft, melodic purr escaped from deep in his chest. He froze mid-breath, eyes wide and luminous, a shiver running along his spine. Do humans always touch their prey like that before eating them?" he stammered, voice breaking slightly, his limbs trembling under the blanket of his panic. "Nope. Not even close," she replied, suppressing a smirk. "I just want to see if you have any broken bones. You got tangled pretty badly in the net." He drew in a sharp breath and flopped dramatically to the side, tailing off into a whimper. "Broken bones, yes, that could happen. Oh no, what if you prepare me in the way your kind does?" Her brow furrowed in confusion. "Prepare you? Like eat you?" "Yes. No, wait. Not eat exactly, but on my planet, being restrained, touched, examined, it's intimately involved." His glowing skin shifted shades of blue and violet with panic, a visual display that made her blink in disbelief. I cannot survive being touched like this unless there is consent." "Do you consent?" She blinked. "I consent not to eat you," she said, almost laughing, trying to keep him calm. "I just want to untangle you. That's it." He stared at her, mind racing. "Not to eat me. Then why are you smiling? Why are you calm? Why do you look at me like that?" His voice cracked, his breathing uneven. Every subtle human gesture she made, a tilt of the head, a blink, a tiny smile, was read as an advanced mating signal, and his brain short-circuited. "Because it's funny?" she said finally, giving up trying to rationalize anything. You're kind of dramatic. He stiffened further, nearly snapping a tendon in the process. Dramatic? On my planet, this is survival. This is vulnerability. This is highly erotic danger. He shivered audibly, a deep, resonant hum vibrating through his chest. She rolled her eyes, crouching closer to untangle the net. He yelped, flailing, and fainted dramatically once more, his body going limp while a faint glow continued to shimmer across his skin. She sighed, shaking her head as she carefully cut the ropes away from his limbs. Great, she muttered. Now I have to handle a fainting, glowing alien male who thinks I'm trying to seduce him into eating him. When he finally blinked awake, he found himself wrapped in a blanket on the forest floor. A cup of water rested nearby, and she stood a few feet away, examining some of the torn netting. Relief flooded him at first. She wasn't about to devour him. Then his alien mind clicked into overdrive. The water, it was sitting there so casually, but on his planet, water offered in the presence of a restrained male could trigger potent mating signals. No! Water! Don't give me that! It's an aphrodisiac! He gasped, jerking upright, limbs flailing as if the cup itself was a weapon. She blinked at him. It's just water. You're thirsty. Drink it. Thirsty, yes, but this is dangerous. You, humans, are tricksters. You could be plotting. He shuddered, tailing off into a purr that was so melodic it made her pause mid-step. She swallowed, suddenly aware that her touch, her gestures, even her voice, had a dramatic, flustered effect on him. I can't survive this level of human affection, he whimpered, curling slightly in the blanket as if that would make him invisible. She knelt beside him, carefully lifting his wrist again. I just need to check your pulse. That's it. The moment her fingers brushed against his skin, he melted visibly, eyelids fluttering, a low, involuntary purr vibrating from his chest. He leaned slightly into her hand, a mix of panic and something else, a fascination, a thrill, running through every glowing fiber of his body. You're powerful, and terrifying, and strangely attractive, he admitted, voice trembling, and then immediately covered his face with his hands, embarrassed. She blinked, staring at him, trying to hide her own rising warmth. Thanks? He peeked between his fingers. You think this is funny, yes? You laugh at the suffering of alien males? I'm not laughing at you, really, she said, struggling not to grin. I'm laughing at the situation, and maybe a little at how flustered you are. That is excruciatingly mortifying and thrilling. He twitched and shivered, glowing shades of violet, then sapphire, a visual display of pure panic intertwined with fascination. I may faint again if you move like that. Good luck with that, she muttered, smiling despite herself. Now sit still while I check your other injuries. He froze instantly, muscles rigid, as if she had asked him to surrender his entire royal dignity. Every slight movement she made, every careful step toward him, he interpreted as an advanced human mating signal. He tilted his head, wide-eyed and purring, muttering something about ceremonial restraints and intimate rituals. She shook her head, realizing that if she wasn't careful, he would combust from overthinking human kindness. Just breathe, she said softly, placing a hand near his shoulder, careful not to startle him further. He shivered and rolled his eyes dramatically. Breathe, yes, but you humans, why do you smile while approaching your prey? I'm not smiling at you as prey, she said, exasperated. I'm smiling at the ridiculous glowing alien who thinks he's about to be eaten romantically. He gasped audibly, tailing off into another soft purr. Do you always speak like this before consuming someone? Nope. Not even close, she said again, unable to stop the laugh from creeping into her voice. He froze, body quivering, eyes shimmering, heart racing, and his glowing skin pulsed with a mixture of terror, confusion, and something dangerously close to anticipation. By dawn, the forest was drenched in a soft, golden light that filtered through the trees. He perched awkwardly on a fallen log, still wrapped in the blanket, eyes flicking nervously toward her every movement. She was busy unpacking her tool kit and walking carefully toward the remains of his crashed ship. The wreck was a chaotic mess of twisted metal and sparking circuits, and she didn't even flinch at the way the smoke hissed in the chilly morning air. He stiffened at every step she took. On his planet, approaching a restrained male, especially one who had been trapped against his will, was considered a highly intimate gesture. He squirmed and flared his nostrils, convinced she was performing some kind of flirtatious, predatory ritual. Wait, why are you walking like that? Why are you leading me? He blurted, eyes wide, voice trembling with alarm and something that sounded dangerously close to excitement. I'm not leading you anywhere, she said, brushing soot from a jagged panel. I just need to check the wiring. Step back a little. He froze mid-flail, glaring at her like a royal guard ready to pounce. Step back, yes, but on my world leading means seduction. This is prelude to bonding. He shivered, a deep purr vibrating from his chest. The sound was involuntary, melodic, and impossible to ignore. She paused, blinking at him. You're adorable when you panic. He yelped and flopped dramatically against the log, eyes darting to her as if she had just declared herself a lethal predator. Adorable? Do humans often laugh at the suffering of their prey? Nope. Only the part that's glowing and flailing, she said dryly, smirking. Now, can you please stop flopping so I can repair your ship? He froze, every muscle stiff, considering her words. She wasn't attacking. She wasn't doing anything overtly sexual. But the way she examined the wreck, the calmness in her voice, the casual way she touched tools, it all screamed mating ritual in his terrified, flustered brain. He let out a soft hum, the kind that made her pause mid-screwdriver twist. You humans are so unpredictable, he muttered, almost to himself, and then gasped dramatically. And yet, I find it, strangely, compelling. She blinked, shaking her head. You're literally the most dramatic being I've ever met, and I've wrestled wild raccoons for fun. He tilted his head, glowing slightly brighter. Raccoons, yes, but they do not smile while teasing the prey. Humans do this, and it is maddening. She chuckled, moving closer to inspect a damaged panel. The closer she got, the more his muscles tensed, and the deeper the purr hummed in his chest. Relax. I just need to fix this part so your ship doesn't explode when you turn it on. Explode, yes, but every explosion, every spark is foreplay on my planet. You do realize that? He flailed slightly, eyes darting between her hands and the sparking circuits. She sighed, ignoring the glowing, flustered alien. All right, fine. Let's make a deal. I'll fix the ship, you try not to faint, scream, or purr for a few minutes. Deal? He hesitated, blinking rapidly. Deal, but if I faint it is not cowardice, it is cultural protocol. Cultural protocol, sure, she muttered under her breath, tightening a bolt. He tilted his head, noticing her muttering and assuming it was a deeply intimate whisper meant only for him. His pupils dilated, and he let out another soft hum that sounded dangerously like a delighted growl. As she worked, she tried to teach him some basic human phrases to stop the misunderstandings. Repeat after me. I am not food. I am not food, he said carefully, struggling to keep his glowing form under control. I am not food and not your mate? His voice cracked halfway through, and he flopped slightly against the log, embarrassed. Close enough, she said, smirking. Now try, I am safe. I am safe, but your hands are deadly, yet attractive. He flushed a deeper shade of violet, and rolled onto his side dramatically, muttering something about human dangerous allure. She couldn't stop herself from laughing this time. You are ridiculous, she said, shaking her head. Ridiculous, yes, but delightful, he admitted, purring involuntarily, glowing faintly as if confessing a forbidden truth. His tail twitched nervously, brushing the log, and she had to hide her smile at how flustered he was. When the cabin lights flickered from a nearby sparking circuit, he leapt slightly and grabbed her hand without thinking. If the lights flicker, it is a bonding ritual. We must bond immediately. She froze, staring at his glowing eyes and soft, trembling body. I think your bonding rituals are extremely complicated, she said, trying to pull her hand free gently. He held it tighter, trembling, and whispered, I may not survive if you leave my side, even for a second. She swallowed, heart racing slightly, trying to remind herself he was just a terrified, ridiculously dramatic alien prince. It's fine. You'll survive. I'm right here. His glowing form softened, purrs vibrating faintly, and he leaned slightly into her hand, sighing audibly. The forest around them was silent, but the tension between them crackled like static. Comedy, panic, and something more, curiosity, attraction, and budding affection, interwove in every glance, every soft hum, every nervous twitch. By the time the repairs were halfway done, they were sitting side by side under the wreckage, sharing a quiet, awkward moment. He admitted, clumsily, melodramatically, that he thought she might have devoured him in some ceremonial way. She laughed, admitting she thought he was just a dangerous creature at first. They shared a long, soft laugh together, and for a brief, glowing moment, the forest faded away. Only two beings remained, one human, one alien, bonded by chaos, misunderstanding, and the kind of tension that made every accidental touch feel electric. He watched her carefully as she adjusted a sparking wire, trying to interpret her intentions. She glanced at him and smiled faintly, and he shivered with a mixture of fear, awe, and something dangerously close to longing. The repairs were still incomplete, but neither of them noticed. The real work had begun, not fixing a ship, but navigating the chaotic, hilarious, heart-fluttering dance of two very different beings learning what it meant to care for one another. By mid-afternoon, the ship was nearly functional again, its hull patched, circuits reconnected, and the faint hum of energy running through it like a heartbeat. He hovered nervously near the doorway, glowing faintly, muscles tensed, eyes darting toward her every movement. She moved with calm efficiency, adjusting wires, tightening panels, occasionally glancing at him to make sure he wasn't flaring his panic glow all over her workspace. He shivered as she leaned over the control panel, hands brushing against the exposed circuits. Wait, those hands, every time you touch, it is intimacy. His voice cracked with excitement and fear, a melodic hum vibrating through his chest. Are you aware that you are overwhelming me completely? I'm aware, she said lightly, smirking. You're lucky I'm not trying to seduce you on purpose. He froze mid-step, glowing brighter with panic and delight. Lucky? On my planet, being exposed to someone like you, touching wires, leaning, breathing, is considered an advanced form of courtship. You're dangerously charming. She rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a grin. Dangerously charming, huh? That must be a first. He flopped dramatically onto a nearby crate, glowing shades of violet and sapphire, eyes wide and pleading. I cannot survive this much charm. My species, my dignity, my fainting reflex, all at risk. She chuckled, crouching beside him to adjust a wire. Then I guess you'll just have to trust me. Trust, yes, but humans are unpredictable, he whispered, trembling. I may combust from anticipation if you move like that again. He flailed slightly, tail twitching, eyes darting between her hands and her calm, smiling face. She reached over to test the connection, and the moment her fingers brushed the metal next to his glowing hand, he froze, chest heaving, pupils dilated. A soft, involuntary purr vibrated through him, making her pause and blink. You're quite reactive, she said, suppressing a grin. He shivered, leaning slightly into her presence, melting under the combination of concern, competence, and accidental seduction. Reactive, yes, but I find it exhilarating. She shook her head, amused and a little flustered herself. You're ridiculous. And yet, also kind of adorable. He gasped dramatically. Adorable? Do humans use that word as a prelude to something forbidden? His voice cracked, and he flopped onto the crate again, covering his face with his hands. Nope, she said, laughing. Just adorable. He peeked between his fingers, blinking rapidly. Adorable, yes, but I may faint again from excitement, or fear, or both. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Then maybe you should stay right here, with me, until you calm down. The combination of proximity, calm voice, and casual confidence made his glowing skin pulse faster, a mix of violet, blue, and faint pink. Stay with you, yes, but you humans can be lethal with affection. Do you realize that? I'll try to be gentle, she said, smirking despite herself. He flopped dramatically, purring louder, tail twitching nervously. Gentle, yes, but will it lead to being eaten? Even slightly? She laughed, finally reaching over to tug his hand gently. No eating, I promise. Only maybe a kiss. He froze, eyes wide, glowing brighter in alarm and fascination. A kiss? Humans kiss instead of eating? Yes, she said softly, leaning slightly closer, her face just outside his line of sight. Kissing is the human version of trust. He shivered and let out a long, soft hum, unable to process the information. Trust, yes, but I may combust if you actually do it. She leaned closer, whispering. Then we'll do it slowly, very slowly. His glowing form softened, purrs vibrating faintly, and he tilted his head toward her, eyes shimmering with nervous anticipation and flustered excitement. His tail brushed lightly against the crate, a small, unintentional gesture of affection. Slowly, yes, but you humans are dangerous, and I like it. She smiled, finally allowing herself to relax, reaching over to touch his cheek gently. And I like that you're unpredictable, glowing drama and all. He shivered, eyes closing briefly, body melting slightly under her touch. Unpredictable, yes, but I trust you, completely. The ship hummed around them, wires and panels sparking softly as the final repairs were made, but they didn't notice. For once, the wreckage, the forest, the chaos of the day, all of it faded. Only two beings remained, bound by laughter, panic, misunderstanding, and a growing, undeniable attraction. Finally, he leaned closer, glowing softly, purring, and whispered, Are you sure kissing doesn't lead to being eaten, even a little? She laughed again, brushing a strand of glowing hair from his face. I promise. No eating. Only affection. His body relaxed almost instantly, muscles loosening, tail curling slightly in contentment. Affection, yes, then. I am yours for now, he murmured, purring loudly, his glowing skin pulsing with every shade of happiness, relief, and flustered desire. She shook her head, smiling warmly. For now, or maybe forever, she teased. He blinked, glowing brighter at the implication, and purred, a low, melodic sound that seemed to vibrate through the forest. In that moment, surrounded by repaired metal, quiet trees, and the soft hum of their shared chaos, the runaway alien prince and the human survivalist discovered something neither of them expected: love, laughter, and the very peculiar, very delightful hazards of interspecies attraction.